Okay, our weekly updates about AI, lots of updates this week. And first, of course, it's International Women's Day. So I put here some flowers and some abstract pictures of women. And this is me as usual. And the first is Claude 3. So Anthropic released a series of 3 models. It's like poetically named haiku, sonnet, and opus. Like haiku is 3 lines, sonnet, well, different sonnets, maybe 12, maybe a little bit more lines, and opus is something big, right? And they're all much better than GPT-3, and opus is close to GPT-4 Turbo, the latest one. In these links, if you read, they provide a table comparing, and according to them, looks like Claude 3 is much better than GPT-4, like in all categories. It's actually not true because it looks like the numbers they had for GPT-4 are all the numbers, not the latest numbers. And if you compare with the latest numbers, GPT-4 actually still the king of the hill, so to speak, but they're very close. Also, Claude 3 is more expensive. So if you look at the table on the top right, so this is input prices in dollar per million tokens. So input, output, and together. So for example, Claude 3 Haiku is very cheap, $1.5 for million in out. Cheaper than GPT 3.5 Turbo, but Haiku is much better and faster. So it's actually, yeah, it's a good thing. If you're thinking about using some online service, don't use GPT 3.5, use Claude 3. Now, Claude Sonnet is now the default one. If you go to claude.ai/chats, what you'll get is Sonnet. And it's pretty good, and it's close to GPT-4. Then in this table, I also put Mistral large, just to compare the total prices. You see they're sorted in growing prices. And Claude 3 Opus, you go at $90 per million tokens, and it's more than GPT-4 Turbo, like twice more. And there are also GPT-4 8K and 32K, which are available, and they're more expensive. I'm not sure how they compare. I think Turbo is better, but well. So what are some features of these new models? Context window is 200K, and they actually can do 1 million, but you have to request that. So when they do process long context, and they find it's capable of like 99% recall. So this is quite amazing. That means you can ask like on which page in the document, like give me the phrase which contains something in the long document, and it will find it. It's amazing. So they're already available via API. If you go to the chat on the web for free, you'll get Sonnet. And they have vision capabilities, and they are on par with leading models. And this is, again, quite amazing. I'll show you what Andrej Karpathy did with that. It's quite amazing. So Claude 3 beats average human on IQ test. Yeah, so this is a list of different models, and you see Claude 3 IQ score is 101. 100 is average score in America, and well, we'll see. I really like this graph because you see this intelligence grows, and we are right now somewhere on a monkey level, but from going from monkey to more than human, like it's already very little distance. So we'll see. Bella, please mute yourself. Next is Elon Musk is suing OpenAI and Sam Altman, and this is a big scandal. It's all over the place. So his point is that he was talking about dangers of general AI, and if it will be controlled by one company like Google, it's bad. And Sam Altman approached him, it was 2015, and proposed to create this nonprofit organization. And you see this is a redacted email from Sam Altman, and Elon Musk replied, agree, on all, right? So they were in agreement. They built a company. The name OpenAI was actually coined by Elon Musk himself. He was original founder and board member until 2018, where he left because of conflict of interest with Tesla, where they were doing AI for self-driving. But he did a lot for the company. He invited good people like Ilya Zutskever, who became director of AI research, and he poured in about $44 million, and there were also some other investors. But somewhere around 2018, they also realized that this kind of research needs a lot of money and more than like 100 million. So we're talking about billions. And they start talking about maybe like Elon Musk suggested, maybe go under Tesla. Elon Musk likes to get control, and they refused, and so he left. And then later they went to Microsoft, and Microsoft gave them $1 billion, and then another $10 billion. Like, so this is the historic line of what was happening. So Musk invested money, then Microsoft invested $1 billion, then OpenAI officially announced GPT-3, and 23 Microsoft announced 10 billion investment. And the point which Musk is making, that OpenAI has become closed AI. And by the way, this is his fix. You see, when Sam Altman, after the scandal in November, returned, he showed that like he has a guest pass into OpenAI. So he, the redacted it, said closed AI. So it's just a joke. But anyway, OpenAI has very strange structure. There are 8 companies. You see, OpenAI Inc., whatever. It's some sort of corporate shell game. And OpenAI team, they deny Musk's claims. So they say that, first of all, they provided a lot of emails showing that Elon Musk was not against like profit. He was just against somebody else making this profit. And difficult to say who is right and what will be the end of this. It probably will be a lengthy process, this litigation. Anyway, but the litigation will start, and Musk is accusing for breach of contract, of promise, and he's making the point, the story, that suppose you create a company to protect rainforest, Amazon rainforest, and the company protects it for the first 3 years and then turns around, become for profit, and start cutting the wood and selling it for money. So he accusing AI of doing that. And the truth is that OpenAI, after they started receiving money from Microsoft at about this time, they stopped publishing, they stopped releasing their code. So they really have become closed. Nowadays, well, everybody, like even Google, creates open models. Of course, there is Mistral, of course, there's Facebook, and so on, so on. If you go on Hugging Face, there are tens of thousands of open source models, Chinese, like Arabic countries, but not OpenAI. OpenAI really has become closed, which is a shame. Anyway, generative AI market to skyrocket. If you try to find some predictions on how the market will grow, I found 3 examples. These are links. So somebody predicts that by year 2030, the market size will be 77 billion, somebody 200, somebody 2 trillion. I think it's actually will be much more than that, simply because knowing how fast the money is poured and its exponential growth, I don't know why they predict it's linear. It will be exponential and very, very steep. I think we were talking about tens of trillions of dollars market size by 2030, and even this probably being conservative. Okay, Google content swiping AI. Well, they don't call it like that. They call it search generative experience. So the idea is if you go on Google search and you search for something, Google shows you a short snippet at the top, which gives you the gist of, which gives you the answer, just right there. And it's very convenient. Like for me, it's very convenient, but people complain. They say, well, because of that, people don't actually go click on the link, and the web traffic goes down, and they criticize Google for not giving attribution for the content that they show. But that's something to know. And also what Google does, in fact, they train software which rewrites content, because they show, when they show the snippet on the top, or when they show the snippet under the link, they actually rewrite, they don't show the original text. They want to show you the short summary, and they have become very good at that. And if you think about like you take web content and you rewrite it, and after you rewrote it, it loses the copyright, right? So then you can train your model on this rewritten text, and you avoid copyright lawsuits. So this may be also part of the motivation. Okay, this is interesting thing. So this is actually a scientific paper. And what they have done, they created a worm, like a malicious, not a virus. It's called worm, but it attacks. It's adversarial prompting, basically. It attacks AI systems. It spreads itself, distributes itself, and well, it is malicious. So when people you see, the study demonstrates the attackers can insert such prompts into the inputs, and when processed by Gen AI models, prompt the models to replicate the input as output and engage in malicious activities, right? So they can propagate, and these are new dangers. And nowadays, all big companies, they're using Microsoft, they're using copilots, and suddenly this is a new threat, and they have to defend themselves. Okay, a little bit more on the evil side. So AI detect fraudulent passports, right? There are many systems on a government level and businesses who do that. But of course, there is an opposite side. There are companies which sell fake IDs, which can pass know your customer checks, and they sell it for only $15, and they can give you passport or driver license from any country in the world. So it's again quite amazing. Some miscellaneous facts. Microsoft GLAN, which is generalized instruction tuning. So the idea is that you create synthetic data, and there is a taxonomy of human knowledge, right? And this is again very common. People now do some hierarchies, some graphs of knowledge. And even if you do simple RAG system, now people recommend, well, don't do just simple vector search. It will not work very well. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, good. Do a graph database, do a graph structure, then it will work much better. So GLAN, as you see, generates comprehensive list of subjects, generates diverse instructions. So it basically generates knowledge, which then you can use it as a tutorial, for example, for education, and also to answer questions. Okay, to the right, we have India, United States, and Europe. So India now has a new regulation that requires approval for certain AI deployments by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Wow. Now, in US, there is a new legislation. It's not in effect yet, but it's being considered. It's bipartisan. And so Federal AI Governance and Transparency Act. The actual name is longer, but whatever. Then in Europe, Europe is always a little bit ahead. So they enacted a new legislation, which is called European Union AI Act. So you see Artificial Intelligence Act.eu. This is the official website. And this is a big thing, and it was already enacted, and it will be enforced probably in 2025. So you remember there was a GDPR, which is General Data Privacy Regulation, 2016-18, which is very common, and everybody is copying it and using it. And now they again ahead, and they created new legislation for AI. Okay, this is interesting statistics. It shows that Fox News, CNN, CNBC, like all major media, decreasing. Like this, you see annual decrease of about 16%. Well, here it's like 8%, but oh, it's BBC. Okay. Cool. So this is about the act. I asked, I think it was Gemini. I asked it to create a short summary, and then I like formatted it a little bit. So the way it works, the regulation, you have 4 levels of risk, from unacceptable, which forbidden, prohibited, to minimal risk, like when you're playing a computer game. And first, depending on the project, you classify what kind of risk you may have. And then there are certain requirements you have to pass, obligations, and so on. Certain practices are prohibited, like social scoring used by governments, use of AI for real-time remote biometric identification in public spaces for law enforcement purposes, AI that exploits vulnerabilities of individuals and groups. So yeah, well, interesting regulation. We'll see a lot of that, and probably will be required AI test, not security test. There is also, like in big corporations, you know, there is anti-harassment training and security training, and now there will be like AI training. Okay, AI content detectors. There are multiple companies which specialize on this service where you give them text and they tell you, is it generated by AI or not? And there are, of course, different companies which are called text humanizers. You give them AI text and then humanize it so it will pass under the radar and will not be detected by those companies. And sometimes company can do both services. Okay, so like create a virus and create an antivirus, right? HyperAttention. So this is article which describes long context attention and how to work with it in nearly a time. Okay, there will be a Google Cloud conference exhibition. It will be in April 9-11 in Las Vegas. Okay, this is interesting. It's Tripo 3D with Stability AI. So there are 2 organizations put it together. It's open source. And what it does, it takes an image. So let's say you have an image of a horse, and it creates a 3D rendering of this image, which you can rotate, look at the different sides to this animal. So any kind of image, it can convert it into 3D, and it does it very, very quickly and very well. I recommend you to go to these links and just look for yourself, like demonstrations. Stable Diffusion 3, we spoke about it. It's the latest version from Stability, and this is the research paper which describes it. VTG-GPT, find specific segments in videos using natural language queries. So you have a video and you tell it, well, find me the frame where something happens, and it will find it. Okay, EMA. So EMA, it's interesting startup. They received $25 million, and it's an office assistant. It's well, we've seen another company on the last presentation, which was called GLAN, and it received like $200 million. So this is kind of similar. I'm not sure what the difference is, but there are multiple companies like that. Okay, next is Microsoft versus New York Times. So you remember that New York Times is suing Microsoft for using New York Times texts for training. And the defense is the precedent. So they're comparing LLMs with VCRs, which is video cassette recorders. And again, you have copyrighted material, let's say a movie, but you can put it on a VCR tape and you can copy this tape, right? So the precedent is that.
Did you
What?
find any update from them?
Sorry, can you mute yourself, please? Okay. I'm not sure. Who is not muted? Please mute yourself. Okay.
Why even I responded, I feel like, that's unfortunate. The person who connected with me, he was giving presentation to Dell's manager.
Okay, but who is this? Who is not muted? Okay.
Yeah, and in his screen, like, and I think that is what
Let me
like
look at
Yeah, can you
participants.
saw that.
Mute.
Kajendra, can you mute the
Yes, I muted. I found the way to mute people. Okay, good. And I can close this. So, comparison LLM to VCR, right? So, because this is a legal precedent, very strange, of course, but Snowflake Cortex. This is interesting story. So, Snowflake is a big database on Amazon Cloud, and they're storing on S3 buckets. And now they're using, they made a partnership with Mistral, and Mistral is a French company which makes open source models. So now they're using Mistral to do search in the data in Snowflake. So Snowflake Cortex, Snowflake it's database itself, and Cortex is like more applications around it. So they have things like semantic search, RAG, vector search. They allow you to use Python, serverless functions, Streamlit to do some GUIs, data pipelines. So the whole thing. But again, using Mistral Large. Mistral Large is one of the best models out there. So yeah, I guess it's a good offering, but as always with Snowflake, things are overpriced and overcomplicated. Inflection 2.5. So Inflection is a company which received a lot of financing, and they created an application called Pi, which is a personal assistant which is supposed to learn to become your friend. And they put a lot of resources, built a huge data center to train it, and they proudly upgraded Inflection from version 2 to version 2.5. Although on Twitter there is some scandalous postings that on some questions it was giving answers like verbatim the same as Sonnet from Claude, so from Anthropic. So somebody says, well, maybe Inflection actually doesn't have their own model, but they're just wrapping the Sonnet. I don't know, but again, it's a high quality model. They actually spent a lot of money on their data center. They have more than 20,000 H100 GPUs, and so this is huge. I saw this citation: LLMs are just stochastic parrots. I just liked it. I put it here. Okay, the word GPT. People say chat GPT, but when I ask what GPT is, usually people have no idea, so I decided to put it here. So GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, and the term itself was coined in 2018 in OpenAI paper, Improving Language Understanding by Generative Pre-training. So this was when OpenAI was open, and they were actually publishing stuff. And there are 4 people, authors of this article. They all are from OpenAI. So you see Alec Renford, and the last one is Ilya Zutskever. So this paper introduced the GPT-1. And after that was GPT-2, and then GPT-3 was already closed. They didn't even publish, well, architecture, I guess. And then GPT-4 is completely closed. Fine-tune a 70 billion large language model at home using 2 NVIDIA 3090 cards. So this is quite an achievement because 70 billion model is big, right? So the only way you can do it if you quantize and if you load, unload, and you do it in a creative way. So this is by Jeremy Howard, who is a very famous AI, machine learning, deep learning specialist and educator and inventor from Australia. And he has a site where he publishes his stuff recently. It's called answer.ai. It's basically a startup. And so he describes how to do it. It's, I think, very, very interesting. And then there is another article, which is a completely different authors from Caltech, Meta, and Carnegie Mellon University. And what they do full training of 7 billion parameter model. So we have done in the fall, we were fine tuning using Clora as 7B Mistral model, but here it's not fine tuning, it's actually training from scratch. So yeah, it's interesting. that you can do it, and you can do it basically on a home computer with just one NVIDIA 3090. Okay, Amazon in February released a chatbot as an assistant for your buying decisions. So it's only on mobile platform, like on your phone, and you may or may not have access to it. And if you swipe and it appears, and you can ask questions, like it can give you recommendations, answer your questions. So this is, I guess, great. I am a heavy Amazon user, so I haven't used it yet, but I will start doing that. Okay, Amara's Law. Well, I've heard this law multiple times from multiple people, and I decided to look like, and people attribute the name Amara to this law. So basically what it is that people tend to overestimate what they can do in a short term and underestimate what can be accomplished in like long term. First time I've heard it, it was actually by Bill Gates from Microsoft. Interesting. Function calling with LLM. So this is a big area, right? And usually how it works, we send text request to LLM. So for example, we're asking to generate certain type of report. LLM tries to determine which function we need to call to accomplish what we're asking, and which parameters we need to give to this function. And ideally, it returns us a JSON with the function name and parameters. Then on our side, we call this function, and we get the results, and then we provide these results back to LLM along with the original request. And LLM provides a humanly readable answer to the original question, right? So it is request in the middle of which we call functions to do some complicated stuff, pull some data from some databases and whatever. We program it on our side. Doesn't matter which language we use. So all LLM needs to know, it has to have a description of which functions are available and which parameters they can accept. So for this to work, we need to create a set of functions in Python usually, or maybe API calls to some external services. We create clear descriptions of those functions, usually in JSON. So function name, function purpose, maybe alternative names, parameters, and so on. And then we include those descriptions into the prompt when we're asking the question, right? So then it makes it work. Now we have LangChain, or we have Llama Index and other frameworks, which makes it very, very simple, because here what I described, you have to think how you formulate and what kind of prompts you need to give. But in LangChain, you don't even have to think about it because they already have all of that. And the code becomes really, really simple. So here we create a function. You see, it's here it's called the weather lookup, right? And we create LLM. This will be our client. And then we map function and we ask the question, what is the weather like in Paris, right? That's it. We don't have to do it. So LangChain does everything else. The problem with this approach, though, is that if OpenAI changes a version on you and suddenly the new version responds a little bit differently. So for example, it was supposed to give you just a JSON, and now it becomes more verbose and gives you more, and you cannot parse it, and the system breaks, so you have to fix it. So some people prefer not to use LangChain, but instead, well, do a little bit more work yourself, create your prompts, but then at least you have more control over what's happening. Okay, Andrej Karpathy, I promised you that what he did with the Claude 3, and this is absolutely amazing. So first, Andrej created a video on YouTube, and it was before Claude 3. It's a 2-hour video where he talks about tokenizers. It's a very good video. I recommend it maybe last week or week before. So he took Claude 3 Opus, and he asked Opus to go through the video material and to find information to find the frames and basically create a tutorial with those pictures out of the video. So if you go on GitHub on this project, and you see the frames. So these are all the JPEGs which the model extracted. You see these are frames it found, right? And then if you go here, the result, it's HTML page. So this is a very lengthy, it's a tutorial, it's like a book which was created. So amazing, right? So you have large language model, but because it can also read images and it can read video, and you can do things like that. You can convert video into a book. Okay. But by the way, one thing I want to say, I tried to, just a second, let me go to Claude. And so you see this is latest Claude and it says Claude 3 Sonnet, right? And I tried to give it the text to summarize it, and I couldn't effectively do it. Like, I don't know why. The only one which worked for me was GPT-4. So I couldn't also do it with Gemini. So that's why I keep all these different models, because you see which one will work for a particular case. Okay, I want to tell you about ASML. So this is another abbreviation which most people don't know. And ASML stands for Advanced Semiconductor Materials Lithography. And this is a company in Netherlands. So there's a Dutch. So this is they are in Europe. And this is probably one of the most important and valuable countries in the world, period. Because what they do, they create machinery. They create these big machines like that, which produce chips, whether it's NVIDIA chips, Intel, AMD, whatever. So for example, NVIDIA AI chips are made using these machines, outsource chip manufacturing to Taiwan, but they use these machines for fabrication, Intel and AMD. So it's a Dutch company, was founded in '84, which is what, 40 years ago. It has 12,000 employees, about 32 billion annual revenues. The machine itself is about 200 tons and it's pretty big, as you can see. And the cost of the machines anywhere from about $200 to $400 million each. And in 1 year, they produce about 40 to 60 of these machines. So just something to know. Okay, this is the latest crowdsourced Arena leaderboard, updated March 5th. This is before Claude 3, and we don't have Gemini Advanced here either. So it's basically the same as it was before. Now, this is about layoffs. I usually provide this slide, and I use layoffs.fyi for technical jobs layoffs. And you see that January, February this year, and compared to January, February last year, so this year it's like 3 times less. But in other industries, it's not the same. So this is, for example, a recent, like actually from yesterday, report by Challenger Gray and Christmas. And what they claim is there are a lot of job cuts in other areas, and it's actually the worst since 2009. I don't know. There is a lot of discrepancy. I don't know what to say. I just want you to provide both these links so you can explore yourself. Okay, this is it. Thank you.